Hey guys, welcome back to the Joe Silverback Show. And as promised, I am going to go over some books that are must-reads in my 30 years of thinking about parenting and what I have found invaluable in my own parenting. And so I'm going to start off with Burton White's first 3 years of life. And my message is again, it's based on how do we as conscious and conscientious parents help foster an environment that is optimal and ideal for the child that has 9 months inside our beautiful wives, inside the beautiful mothers to be, and that environment, ideally in the first 7 years of life. If I were to take a chunk of time and say, if you have this ability to commit to 7 years, that's more credible, then you could maybe go to 5. And then the red flag warning zone from all research is at least let's zoom in on those first 3 years of life. And what's going on in those first 3 years of life, Burton White's research and revised editions, updated, is very critical and revealing to the development of a healthy, whole child. And the if you could think about the seed, if you think about the seed of the redwood tree, if you think about the seed unfolding from the size of my thumb knuckle here into this giant, sometimes 300 foot, sometimes 3,000 years of life redwood tree. And if you can think about your child being born from the egg and seed, and also having this evolutionary ability to unfold in a very prescribed manner. All that has to be is that we have to create the environment for that unfolding to happen. Secondly, what we know about the first 3 years is that the personality and in some ways the destiny of that child's sense of self is being formed in those first 3 years. The destiny and the child's sense of self is being formed in those first 3 critical years. Second book is David Elkin's The Hurried Child, and it's it's intuitive. We understand just from my own everyday anxieties and your everyday anxieties and our awareness of how the world we live in is making us feel rushed, and we don't want that to happen in the developing consciousness, in the developing brain, in the developing neurological heart mind of our beautiful child. So the hurried child will help any parent understand that the responsibility that we have and the desire we have to help this child stems from being able to trust, being able to be aware and trust the seed that's going to flourish if we Just allow it. If we don't put our own anxiety, if we don't put our own self-made pressures, and we have them. I watch mine every single day, and if you're watching this video, you're learning to watch your own, and you hopefully are better at it than I am. But the beauty of this is that the desire to not impose a sense of rush that creates anxiety, that this anxiety interferes with the unfolding. And the third book is Magical Child, Joseph Chilton Pearce's classic work, talking about let's just sit with the word magical. Magical is a very important word for me because I think it brings more consciousness into our sense of who we are as a soul, as a conscious being, as somebody who can make a difference in the world in a magical way, and in connecting to the magic of life. And Magical Child obviously deals with how can we create an environment so this beautiful child can have more opportunity for feeling the magic of life. And I know that there's much more recent brain development research and the questions about the tripartite brain as opposed to just one contiguous brain, and none of that really matters because neuroscience is constantly learning new things. But what we do know is that there's some old that our brain has brought with it throughout our evolutionary history, intelligence that's hardwired. And then there's newer part of the brain that is part of what they call the clean slate, where we have this openness to new growth and new intelligence. So you have two aspects, but the aspect that is critical to the Magical Child is respecting that, just like that redwood tree, there is very stage-specific development going on inside of our children that do not require any push or pull from us. All that we need to do is create a nurturing environment so that the seed of the child can develop holistically, wholesomely, and learning to begin to trust ourselves and trust that child and trust the magic that unfolds. So if you look at a child beginning to, try to pull himself up, we didn't prescribe that. Nature prescribed that, the nature of our child. And the nature of our child has its own prescription. And in addition to that, Magical Child talks about some very specific bonding that evolution has prescribed, and when followed gives the best chances. So one of those is the bonding with the mother, which takes place first in the womb and then takes place when that baby is born. And there's a lot of power, a lot of beauty, a lot of blissful love going on when that mother-child nursing, suckling, breastfeeding, bonding takes place. The eyes connected, the exact distance from the mother consciousness, from the mother's heart, all kinds of things that you just will experience yourself when you see it. I myself, I cannot say that I was envious. I can only tell you that as a man, it's the most powerful thing in the world to see the unfolding of this blissfulness that takes place when a mother and child fall in love with each other through the nature bond that they have. That's very different than we men have with our children. Then there's the bonding with the father, and that's a critical bonding time too. And there's the bonding that Chilton Pierce talks about of the child with the earth. So it's going from the matrix of the mother to a larger matrix, the matrix of the mother. Then there's the mother and the father, and the matrix, and the bonding with the father, and then there's the matrix of the living earth. And this herein lies something that I want all of us to have this opportunity to experience, and that is one period of sacred time. I became confident that there would be, I had like a 12-year demarcation before I wanted my children to have access to TV and computers and technology. And you may laugh at that. You may throw stones at me for that. You may write me up on that, or you may be curious about that. But that became the center of my vision. And with at least the first child, I had 4, but with the first child, it did happen. And it doesn't matter. Life is messy, and we're going to have our dreams and our visions for the center of the universe, and it's going to be moved a little bit. But what I want to say about that is that it's so clear that those first 7 years of life are a time period in which the child should be finding himself or herself alone as much as possible. What I mean alone is without us putting that child's brain development and heart-mind development in front of a TV to take in from someone else's vision of the world, or the computer and take in from Google's vision of the world, or whatever it is that the computer's vision of the world is. We've got to be able to, as human beings and as mothers and fathers and grandparents and uncles and aunts, come to understand that there's got to be a grace period where we leave the child in as much of a unprescribed universe as possible. And that's why nature outside, nature inside is so critical to be respected. Nature outside, nature inside. The relationship of our growing child to the vast universe that has been a part of eons of our beautiful evolution. And if we have any sense of what our intelligence has evolved into and from, we can understand that we've got to allow our children to have a moment of childhood where self-exploration is the primary focus, and unfolding of consciousness and unfolding of brain development, an unfolding of the neurological system, an unfolding of the heart-mind connection. And heart-mind is what we all need. And our time as parents at the seashore, at the park, in the backyard, child learning to find out about the world in the most open, exploratory way is one of our obligations before we start implanting too much of the linear, logical, the mental disciplines, the abstract learning. Magical Child highlights that very beautifully. Okay, those are 3 books. I've gone into 15 minutes into the 16th minute, and I know that this is a lot to digest, so it's a deep topic, and take some time and look at the literature. Give me your feedback, give me your comments, give me your experiences. Don't feel judged. I had 4 children, and what I learned from the first to the 4th in this realm, again, it's a messy business parenting, but it's the most beautiful education that we have. It is the most beautiful education that we have. And so what I want everyone to think about, if you're in that opportunity, if you're in that place to think about it, it's creating an environment so that that child can be at home with hopefully both parents, at home ideally at least with the mother for the first 3 years of life, and in a environment that has lots of free time to self-explore in nature, outdoors, as much as possible. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go with that, and we will catch up on this and do a whole nother segment on it. So looking forward to keeping the conversation going. Ciao.